Hi guys! First off, I'd like to note that if you haven't seen Alien Covenant yet, and you should, there are spoilers ahead. So if you haven't seen the movie, you may want to watch this video after you've had a chance to see it. Otherwise, if you don't care, we'll just jump right into it. Now right away, in case you don't already know it, Elizabeth Shaw does not survive Alien Covenant. I've seen that many people are really upset with the fact that Shaw not only dies in Alien Covenant, but she really isn't in the film much at all. If you've already seen the movie, then you know all too well, not only is Shaw dead, but that her body has been used in David's alien experiments as well. We now know after watching Covenant that the body that is on the table in David's lab is in fact Elizabeth Shaw's body. We can even see here that not only has she had her organs removed, but that there's some kind of alien-like mutation growing around her head. The mutation was really not a surprise to me, although the fact that the body on the table was Shaw did surprise me. The reason I wasn't surprised by this mutation is because we've already seen this image before in H.R. Giger's old artwork, and we've seen Ridley Scott trying to incorporate older Giger art into the prequel movies. My question here is, what exactly happened to Shaw? I know from the film most people believe that David killed her while she was in cryosleep. I'll be the first to say that this is most likely what I think happened. Although I can't help but think and wonder, did she perhaps die from an infection caused by the black goo when she had sex with Holloway? It is entirely possible that she was already going to die from this interaction and that it just takes longer so she was able to survive the ending of Prometheus and some of the trip to the engineer's homeworld planet. It's possible that Shaw was dying from the black goo exposure, or even that they didn't have the food or nutrients to sustain her for the trip, and that David used the goo in order to either help her or to turn her into something different or perhaps better. The reason I ask this is that the huge hole in her chest tells me that David was just simply harvesting organs, but the Giger-like mutation around her head wouldn't have been done to simply get parts to study. I don't think it was done to try to revive her, but I have heard theories that David was possibly upset by her death, and this is why he ends up bombing the engineers. I don't think this is the case, as David already has plenty of reasons as to why he'd want to wipe out both the humans and the engineers. I can see why this theory is floating around. When you watch the Alien prologue, The Crossing, it totally looks like David is either in love with Shaw or that he sees her as a mother-like figure. I actually think that this was just a misdirection attempt from Ridley Scott in order to make us surprised when we see her real fate in the movie. Perhaps David really did love Shaw. The only thing about this that has me wondering is that it was David who infected Holloway with the black goo to begin with. So David, being supremely intelligent, should have known that there was a chance of Shaw becoming infected. Perhaps at this time and Prometheus, David didn't love Shaw in the way that he might have by the end of Prometheus or into the Alien Covenant prologue, The Crossing. I'll have to be honest here and say that I just think that he killed her while she was in cryosleep. I think even though David can show emotions, he is surely smart enough to fake those emotions as well. Even if he's not faking these emotions, he may not fully be able to contain them or even really understand them on a human level. Another bit of background that would help us understand the fate of Elizabeth Shaw would be to know exactly when she died. Did she make it to the engineer home planet, or did she die on the trip there? We know from the movie and the trailers that she did at least survive part of the trip. We find out that the Covenant crew received a signal from Shaw in the form of the John Denver song Take Me Home. Was this Shaw meaning take me home as in back to Earth? Or did she mean take me to the engineer home planet, perhaps the true home of the human race? I've heard many theories that David used Shaw's reproductive organs in order to create the facehuggers. I think it may be much simpler than this. We see that David has several eggs in his lab. I believe that these are actually Shaw's own eggs and they've been exposed to the black goo. A human female is not like a human male. a male will produce sperm all throughout his life, whereas a female is born with a few million eggs and slowly loses them throughout her lifetime. Even though Shaw was unable to bear children, I believe she still had eggs and David was able to modify them. Or in the least, she still had her ovaries and he was able to use these to produce the eggs. I do also see why people think that he used her parts to create the face huggers. After all, they're pretty much a sexual organ themselves. The idea, though, that the eggs are actually Shaw's is much more exciting to me. To me, this not only links the engineers to the humans by DNA, but this would also include the aliens into that same family tree. Just think about it. They would all be related. How crazy would that be? The xenomorph that stuck its jaw into your forehead may well be related to you. After all, I did note in an older video that the alien in the first movie had a human skull in its head. Even then I said it may be related to humans, but if the eggs are from Shaw, then that's even more evidence that they are all related to us. I really do wonder if David is capable of fully realizing human emotions at this stage in his development. Normal people have many social situations along with parents and others that help guide them into properly handling complex human emotions. Even if David's programming did its best to help him closely mimic the range of emotions, it's possible that his lack of experience in social situations when compared to normal people may cause him to be immature when it comes to these emotions. We know that David has an extreme hatred for both the humans and the engineers. Ridley Scott has stated that he wants to end both of them. He has a lifetime of experiencing these emotions, and it seems to be his main goal in life. When it comes to love, however, David may know the emotion, but he has not experienced love from someone else or truly felt love himself for another being. He may have had some feelings for Waylon, but he knew there was always a servant and creator role there, and this was at the root of all of his hatred for humans in the first place. When he does finally feel something close to love, it's from the kindness that Elizabeth shows him towards the end of Prometheus and in The Crossing. Even though his feelings seem genuine, a computer or a program is all about priorities, and his feelings towards humans and engineers outweighed his feelings for Shaw. Even still, his emotional grasp, or lack thereof, may only be a passing theory of mine. It makes me wonder how much stock I should put into other feelings that David shows in the movie. I can't help but wonder what made David cry when the bombing was happening. Was it hate? Sadness? Or did David even really know how to feel? It's hard to tell because the movie never states if he dropped the bombs or if they dropped automatically. Although we do know that David wanted to destroy the engineers from a Ridley Scott interview, so I think he most likely intended to drop the bombs. As to why he would cry if he meant to do this, your guess is as good as mine. It's possible he was mourning Shaw. Possibly he was overwhelmed by the power of being able to wipe out the engineers on their own homeworld. This also makes me question his feelings of love towards Shaw, and if they were any more than just observations. Even if they were real feelings of love or friendship, creation won out in the scheme of priorities. Let's not forget his quote from Prometheus, "Sometimes to create, one must first destroy." I even think that David may believe that using Shaw to create the aliens may even make him happy, as he feels that he is finally fulfilling her wish to become a mother, and not just any mother, but a mother to the most perfect of all species. Personally, I don't need the actors to survive any of the alien films to be happy. In most horror films, no one survives, and even when they do, that just means they're the first one to die in the next film. That being said, it would be nice to have the unexpected horror outcome where she actually survives. I didn't need to have Numi in Covenant in order to like the movie, but I felt her demise didn't get enough coverage. It would have been nice to see how she dies and if she ever got to meet the engineers on the homeworld. For people like me that liked the engineers and wanted to know more about them, Shaw was the vehicle to make that happen. She was the one who wanted to know all of the answers to the bigger questions that Prometheus asked of us. I get why people wanted her in Covenant and why they wanted to see her meet the engineers. I had hoped for getting the questions answered through David after watching the prologue, The Crossing, But that was just a tease, so hopefully we'll get more engineers, or at least some information on the engineers, in Alien Awakening. I'm reminded that a lot of people said there are similarities in the Alien prequels to the classic movie Frankenstein. I myself see similarities as both movie franchises center around the creation of life. One scene that comes to mind to me is the scene in which the Frankenstein's monster sees the little girl throwing flowers into the water. To him, somehow he comes to the conclusion that the beautiful flowers belong in the water. Perhaps the beautiful girl belongs in the water as well, so he throws her into the water. We really don't know his motivation behind this, but for some reason or another, he comes to that conclusion. I don't think he was trying to harm the girl, he just didn't understand the differences between the flowers and the human little girl. Perhaps David is throwing Shaw into the water, thinking that he's doing the right thing. Even though he may be killing her, he will be using her to create the perfect being and allowing her to become a mother after all. So what do you guys think? Did Shaw's death upset you? Do you think that she died of the black goo from Holloway, or was it just David? Are those eggs from Shaw, or did David use her organs to grow or create the eggs? Did David really love Shaw in the end, or does he even know what love truly means? All questions that I cannot wait to hear what you guys think about on. Let me know down in the comments, and if you have any other questions, I'd love to hear those as well. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.